what we want to engage in now is co-producing a programme of activity where it will enable that peer exchange opportunity between yourselves, with hopefully then some outcomes of creating tools that can be then shared across the sector within Wales. But interestingly, when we looked at what was needed to support new model development, it wasn't about, procurement as an isolated function or commissioning as an isolated function. It actually was looking at the investment model that was needed generally. And there were 4 kind of factors that were cited as part of that discussion. So first thing was very much around, having a clear intention, purpose, having outcomes identified from the start, allowing time to develop the model, which I think is sometimes critically lacking in the process, but also having investment available to be able to invest in additional staff at the development phase, to be able to allow key personnel to be released from normal day-to-day activity. And certainly when I spoke to Maylis in relation to in Gwynedd and the case study that Sian's just presented, that was very, very important to them, was giving people that space to be able to look at this transformation agenda away from their day-to-day activity and have the space to do that. But the other element that was critical was the investment into the provider market to allow them to be able to work with you guys to be able to meet the new requirements. So the other thing that we looked at was, again, I think there was a recognition in relation to tenders and contracts needed to be less onerous to support the development of new models and get new types of organisations within the supply chain. But there was a recognition realistically that change needed to be happening in the pre-contracting stage and ensured in the contract management stage to really affect positive change in respect to Section 16. And that's some of the kind of, some of the work that we want to look at now in the programme of work moving forward. There was also a kind of a call to, let's not focus on the label of an organisation. So when you look at the terminology within Section 16, as Adrian said, there is a call around kind of enabling social enterprises and cooperatives into the supply chain. And we do want to be looking at that in the programme of work, of looking at policy levers, particularly around reserved contracts, for example, that might be able to support the better engagement of those types of organisations. But actually what we wanted to do was look at, how can we meaningfully scoring tenders against kind of overarching policy objectives that will help lead to multiple well-being and sustainability outcomes, and measuring performance against overarching policy objectives that will help to identify and reward generally trusted suppliers. So again, just a slight change of orientation away from just looking at the models themselves. We then looked at kind of internal relationships really, and what was flagged up as being critical was the need for collaboration, not just between the commissioner and the market, but actually collaboration between internal departments within the organisations looking to commission services. So particularly between commissioners, procurement people, legal teams, get together at the earliest opportunity really to all buy into a framework for change that everybody has an opportunity to input into. Co-production came up, and we had, there were a number of kind of conversations we had around, well, how do we do co-production better? How can we do it in different contexts? What are the different models for kind of co-production? How do we do co-production when we've got a really short timeline? So that's something that we want to look at in terms of the masterclasses and the programme of activity moving forward. I've already touched on the engagement with the market, and actually we're working with Gwynedd at the moment, because what Gwynedd have helpfully recognised is that the significant transformation agenda, the market has to move with that, but the market will need some investment in supporting doing that. So we're working with the provider market in Gwynedd to do some baselining in terms of what they feel they're currently delivering in terms of social value and social impact through contract delivery, but where we might be able to move them and how they can see what broader opportunities, the beyond market agenda that Adrian has talked about, and how we can pull that then into the compilation of the tender process for Gwynedd. So that was something that was identified as being really critical. The whole area of risk management came up, and very much, that there needed to be a more innovative approach to risk taken in some cases to be able to help support the development of new models and approaches. And very much some people felt that there could be a different approach to risk taken, particularly with social value delivery models who may be delivering smaller packages of support. So that's something that I think we can look at within the programme moving forward. And clarity around kind of the use of grant funding. And again, this beyond the market, where is it appropriate to be using procurement? Where is it appropriate to be using grant funds? And how you can actually use both processes collectively to, again, enable change. So in terms of some of the recommendations, the way we framed the recommendations were, well, actually, if we were able to do more work with the sector, these are the how-to things that people really want us to be kind of working collaboratively with. So it were, in terms of using the similar framework that Adrian has used, so, looking at commissioning for multiple outcomes, the procurement route. Some of the things that came out were, okay, well, how do we use the public contracts regs to better effect? What are the levers, the constructive levers within the regulations that allow us to do different things while still being fully compliant and having running an open and fair market process? The thing around kind of how to specify, score and monitor social value outcomes more effectively. I mean, this came up as being quite a crucial area of work. And interestingly, we've got a wonderful opportunity because most recently the WLGA have worked with the heads of procurement group and have kind of co-launched the social value TOMs, which are the themes, outcomes and measures. And one of the pieces of work that we wanted to do as part of this programme was actually look at the TOMs, look at the social value metrics that have been mapped against the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, and identify those that have direct alignment to social care provision, and potentially think about then creating almost a bespoke set of TOMs that would be relevant for social care. And I think that would be a really valuable piece of work that we could co-produce with members of the panel and members of the audience today. We also looked at how we support suppliers to report and measure impact more effectively. And again, when you think about the procurement process, sometimes, you can have a provider who's providing amazing social impact, but what they're not good at are articulating it within a procurement process or be able to measure it. So again, they can kind of specify it in a quantifiable manner. So one of the things that we've built into this program is whether there's an opportunity of bringing in support through our Social Enterprise Academy to work at the supplier market level to help them think about measuring impact. And again, we could run a series of regional workshops and with some key suppliers that you guys might want to target as part of your program development. We then looked at commissioning for multiple outcomes, the before and after procurement. And again, how do we kind of engage with providers more effectively? But the big one here was about co-production. How do we apply co-production more widely? When do we know the co-production will result in kind of, meaningful, impactful change? And, what are the mechanisms? How do we do it? And how can we do it in multiple different contexts? And that is certainly something that we need to work with you guys on. And that's something you guys, I wanted us to work with you on. And then the commissioning beyond the market. So again, how do we use grants more effectively? How do we understand citizen needs and community capacity? How do we build locality orientation into care contracts? And this was interesting. It was, how do we ensure that we deliver a person-centered service, but how do we also ensure that we maximize, for example, the use of community assets and networks through the delivery by kind of, using this locality orientation? And how do we capture learning, from work across Wales more effectively? And I think that's something that we would like to look at as part of this. So what's the legacy that this programme of work will leave? Is it an opportunity to build some communities of practice or kind of action learning sets that will kind of exist beyond really the intervention of this particular programme? So where do we want to go next? Come to the end of the formal delivery of the webinar, but actually, in terms of looking at the values of section 16 around kind of co-production, collaboration, added value. We want to co-produce what the next phase of this work looks like, and we want to very much respond to what you need from us. So following the webinar today, what Donna is going to do is issue an expression of interest form to everybody that's attended. So there's some simple questions on there, but what we'd want to get a feel for is, what are the themes of development that you're interested in? Is it around kind of specifying and scoring for social value? Is it around kind of commissioning for social value before and after procurement, building capacity for the market? What are the themes of work that you would like to see coming out of that? And it might be that you have a specific project that you would like us to kind of work with you on, or it might be that you're looking at holistically the kind of process within your department. So we're quite open really to the way in which people want to engage with us. And we're asking people to submit those expressions of interest to us by Friday the 8th of January as a deadline, so then we can start to pull really a programme of work, and we'll be busy really between January and the end of March when the programme needs to be delivered. We're also reaching out to key stakeholder groups as well. So through obviously Maria, we have a meeting with the National Commissioning Board next week. And we also have a meeting with the Welsh Government Foundational Economy Social Care Community of Practice group on December the 17th to look at those projects and how those projects align to the aspirations of the Act, and how again we can share value and share learning really across the piece.